So good morning and welcome to the audience and welcome to my panelists here. My name is Annette Rollers and I'm the founder and director of Fintopology. We do research creating human insights for finance. And I'm really thrilled and thankful to Kinfus for allowing me to moderate this panel and webinar on reinventing banking and insurance through digital transformation, a subject that I'm sure is close to the hearts of all of us here. And I'd like to start by asking the panelists to introduce themselves. But before that, I will remind anybody in the audience that we are most welcome to ask questions and that we will try to answer some of them. I understand you are quite a lot of people present, so we may not be able to cover everything, particularly not if it's very specific, but we will try to include it in our broad discussions here. And as I say, we have really a great background of people with great backgrounds here, and I'd like you in the panel to introduce yourself. And I think perhaps talk a little bit about what you are doing in your organization or more generally about digital transformation. So Paula, I'd like to come to you first, I think.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Paola Núñez. I work as a Chief Country Compliance Officer at Citibank. I have been working here for more than 1 year. Previously, I was in the money transfer sector. I have a background of legal, so I think my abilities of lawyer help me a lot in my current job, which is mainly compliance, risk management, and regulatory compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose, would you go next?
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Luis. I work as head of digital office in Caser. It's a Spanish insurance company belonging to Helvetia Group. My background, I'm a computer engineer, so I'm passionate about everything related with efficiency, technology. As head of digital office, my main role is to solve business problems with the use and technology, and also to widespread the adoption of digital strategies across the different departments to keep improving. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you. Oscar?
Yeah. Good morning. I am Özgür, and first of all, I would like to thank you to inviting me to this webinar and be part of this virtual session. My background is software engineer. I have started my career as a software engineer and then moved from IT to business team in Turkey, in Turkey's first digital banking application, Empara.com, and I took managerial role here as a CRM manager and digital marketing manager. Then I moved to the Netherlands 4 years ago, and now at Create Europe Bank, which is a mid-sized bank and headquartered in Amsterdam, Netherlands. I've been charging digital transformation and digital banking, and currently we are realizing digital transformation project from tech stack upgrades to offering new channels, new mobile applications to our customers, both in corporate and retail domains. Thank you.
Right. Last but not least, Theodoros.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Theodoros Papadopoulos. I'm working for Banco Valletta as a Chief Digital and Transformation Officer. Before that, I used to be again in banking. I was working for Eurobank, one of the biggest banks in Greece. And before that, I was also based in Amsterdam. I was working for Booking.com. What I'm doing is I'm trying to help the bank to make that step towards a digital transformation by reintroducing to our customers a brand new digital offering.
Thank you so much. So now we know who we are, and anybody else can look that up digitally because that is the world we are in. And I thought that, as you can see, we are global here and with very different backgrounds, which is really great for this discussion. And I think it would make totally sense to start by discussing how far have we come, because we've been discussing digital transformation for quite some years under different headings. We started out perhaps talking about every vision about the whole world being digital and moving then later into acquiring specific technological skills. So technologies sort of gained the front in many conferences and discussions. And now we are sort of moving more into business models and how to serve customers during digital transformation. So I was thinking it would be great to hear your thoughts and how far we've come. And you can comment on your own company, or you can comment more generally. And it's really great for me that we have both banking and insurance represented. So Theodoros, would you start us out on this?
Sorry, I was on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Sorry, what was your question? Because I had a lag in my connection.
Ah, okay, you lost your connection. But I was saying, could you start us out on the discussion of where we are at the moment with digital transformation?
Where we are. I think that it's so rapidly evolving, the whole area of digital transformation, that sometimes might be overwhelming to keep up with the pace of how things are transforming. I think we are in a very critical point in the history of digital. Why? Because we all see the latest updates on technologies about artificial intelligence and how this is creating new opportunities, not only for banks, but for every business, in order to take that step towards a digital transformation, and by enhancing digital experience, by giving to the customers a tailor-made offering. The power and the use of data that we have today in our hands helps a lot in order to be more mature on how we are taking informed decisions and why we are taking these decisions, which also helps a lot the whole digital space. But to reply to your question, I do believe that still we haven't seen much. Even though things might be quite overwhelming, I do believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see amazing new developments when it comes to the digital space. And speaking of banks, because this is where I come from, I think it's also a very unique opportunity for the banking sector in order to get up to speed and embrace all these changes that they are happening around us.
This is great. We don't have any fintechs represented here, but are you doing better or worse in banking than the fintechs are, being the digital natives?
I'm not sure if the question is, if we are doing, better or worse than the fintechs. What I can definitely say, or at least share my thoughts, is that banks should definitely be very, very thankful to fintechs, because they have opened up a totally new market for us, for the legacy banks. This is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, fintechs do have the luxury to go more agile, to have a better time to market, where usually we see in the legacy organizations that they are suffering in order to adjust with the change. In that term, yes, they are doing better than the banks. However, it's not about, the way at least I see it, it's not about being, a competitive landscape of who is doing better, but mostly how can we really join forces as legacy banks, as traditional organizations with fintechs in order to change the landscape and to benefit for the sake of our end customer. So I think that it's mostly a space for collaboration rather a space of competition.
Thank you. Jose, is the picture similar in insurance?
Yes, I fully agree with Theodoros. I think in insurance and in the last years, we have a big demand of digital services due to the pandemic. The pandemic forced us to adapt these new channels, and our customers, for example, in health, they began to demand and to use the teleconsulting. So that helped us a lot to improve that kind of digital services. But to keep that pace, because this is evolving too fast, I think it will be impossible without joining forces and be with insurtechs and specialized platforms. So we are using a lot that kind of partnership to provide our customers that kind of services. And also now we are a big change that has been recently is the new appearance of the AI models, the new AI models. But now we are just scratching the surface of the big potential that it can be for us to help to deal with data, more to help our handlers to be more efficient.
It makes sense. Oscar, do you want to comment also on the status of the field?
Yeah, actually, as you asked, Annette, regarding the fintech part, I believe that in order to compete or at least collaborate with the fintechs as existing players in the market, we need to renew and get rid of our legacy systems at first. Therefore, at CEB, we decided to renew our infrastructure from monolith to cloud-native banking, digital banking platform, which leads to us, enable us to make making cooperation with fintechs with this API integration capability, so that I'm in the opinion that in order to be ready for the digital world, in order to meet the customer expectations and for the products, existing players should renew their tech stack at first and then build new microservices. For instance, we are now offering real-time foreign exchange to our corporate customers with a new microservice developed in the cloud-native platform, and also with a third-party integration. So all these are happened with a new banking platform at first. Otherwise, with the monolith application, it will be difficult. It will be very difficult for us to achieve these things. And I think in order to close the gaps between fintechs and existing players, we need to focus on more technological infrastructure at first.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to comment on the status of digital transformation, but perhaps a comment on whether the regulators can keep up in the change. Or
yes, definitely. I would like to comment on the compliance perspective and a little more generally on the role of regulation. Yeah. In 2022, the European Union passed different EU legislative acts related to regulation of technology. Fortunately, this year is said to be an important year for developments in artificial intelligence and regulations and policy in the EU. For example, in the agenda for this year, there are other legislative acts and proposals affecting technology. I have to say that the European Union has a unique IT strategy, while the US priority is the development of global tech giants. Here in the EU, they focus more on becoming the sector's leading regulator. We can be sure that there will be more regulation next year's and increased enforcement of it. Maybe I could give some predictions from the EU's policy this year. We can expect significant changes in legislation. For instance, a stronger security, as we were talking about cybersecurity. This regulation on cybersecurity aims to harmonize the financial sector's approach to cybersecurity to comply with the rules. Organizations will need to review legacy IT systems and potentially invest in new software. Unfortunately, this may be costly for small companies in the short term, but I think in the long term, it will pay off. So I think it worth to think about it. The risk management. The EU is also developing new regulation for artificial intelligence named AI Act. We need to expect a risk management framework to become necessary for compliance with the AI Act. And of course, cryptocurrencies are becoming a focal point of tech regulation. In the EU, a growing controversy has led to the new legislation for the sector. The most important thing is the law to be open-minded, I think, and flexible enough to be revised depending on how the markets develop. That'll be my opinion in this.
At least it's a starting point where things are really changing a bit. So we've made a good start, but there's a lot more to come. And that's what I gained from your inputs, which is good. And I think that both Paula and Oscar have already touched upon that. What would be my next question, which is we've talked a lot about new technologies and new skills that are needed to develop all this. We also talk a lot about making this turning this into new business models, and we also clearly see that we need to have some kind of common infrastructure to be able to drive this forward. So how do you see this alignment between technology and business going on?
Yeah, actually, let me start from my personal view of the development in technology. For instance, as a digital banking professional, I also find it very difficult to keep up the pace of the development technologies. For instance, artificial intelligence has been in our lives for a long time. However, last December, ChatGPT, arose, and in the last 6 months, all of us currently discussing the impacts of the ChatGPT in our personal life, professional life, and in business. So I feel that business teams and the business lines also have difficulty to keep the pace of the development of the technology. Therefore, IT teams, digital banking, digital transformation teams should proactively lead this business strategy with them. So we need to put digital people, digital staff, and departments to the business lines and to create strategy together. At Credit Europe Bank, since we are not a fully agile organization, how we follow these steps. We have product teams, product managers, and owners, and we are using them in order to close the gap between IT and business lines. So product owners, which have many stakeholders in the bank, transform and translate the technological impacts, opportunities, are also threats to the business lines within the bank, so that not only creating strategy but also implementing and running the strategy also requires product managers' contribution, we believe. This is the one, let me say, maybe solution for us to achieve the alignment between business and IT, let me say. And my other suggestion, or maybe in the future we may take action like this. The other suggestion that I would like to mention here, that employing and putting technology, IT background people to the business team. For instance, maybe a software engineer can take a marketing role in the business line, or maybe an agile scrum master can take a role in customer service department. Because I really believe that combining technical IT background or technical background with the business mindset would bring success. Therefore, for the banks, for the bigger organization, if there is no agile organization, I would suggest employ staff, IT staff in the business teams.
Interesting. So it's a culture change, perhaps, as well in the organization.
Maybe, yes.
Theodoros, do you want to add to this?
Sure. Definitely in agreement with Oscar on his comment, and I think it's mostly how you can bring the business close to the digital space in order to understand the benefits of digitizing their offerings and their models as well. I think that the whole game is changing, and is changing rapidly. So it's about bringing these two together, working or experimenting through different methodologies like agile or design thinking, where you can safeguard an up-to-date, let's say, offering and service to the customers, to the end customers.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to add to this, Jose, but perhaps
Yeah.
different perspectives in
Yeah, I think
insurance.
see the thing that Ognur mentioned about the IT people into business, I think is a key point. Indeed, I am an IT guy that now works near the business. IT and business are two different worlds and two different languages. They don't understand. So you need translators between them to carry the business cases to IT and to translate what IT asks to the business people. And also I think that to align technology and business is very important to detect the right business people that can help us to carry that kind of projects. The business people usually they are scared of that kind of projects. They think that they are going to quit their jobs or they are not interested, and they have a reaction to change. So it's very important the people part of the equation. You have to select and identify that business people if you want to be successful in carrying that kind of digital transformation.
So, Paula, coming from legal, which in my experience is often a place where people feel I don't want to involve legal early because they'll just say stop. Is there anything about integration towards business development that we should be aware of here as well?
Yes, definitely there are new regulations coming. For example, the Data Act. It was a proposal from the European Commission made last year in February. So this Data Act proposed EU regulation focused on data generated by Internet of Things devices. So it aims to create a single data market in which data is more accessible and can be shared without legal obstacles, in summary. However, these negotiations are expected not to be completed before spring this year. Another important act would be the Artificial Intelligence Act, maybe the most important one. Is a proposed EU regulation targeted at regulating AI systems in the EU and across the EU single market. The two key aims are to maintain trust in the AI systems used in the EU and in the EU market, to create an ecosystem of excellence for AI in the EU. So it proposes to achieve these aims by addressing risks of specific uses of AI and categorizing them in different levels of risk. This act is unlikely to become binding until late 2023, so we have a while for it. There is another one called the AI Liability Directive. It is a proposed legal framework for the targeted harmonization of product liability rules for AI. This mainly boosts consumer confidence in interacting with emerging technologies. And this will be adopted, this was already adopted, but the next step by the European Parliament and the European Council will be to propose these liabilities for 5 years after the entrance in force of this act.
I'm sure that you are already making a great case for integrating legal and compliance in the business development as well, to be sure to maneuver correctly among these changes of regulation.
Yes, definitely. I mean, naturally, more technology is brought into the regulation space, more compliance challenge arises. Some companies have been able to adapt to these changes successfully, integrate them. However, there are others that not so much, mainly small companies. But I think we are in a good position now, coming with these regulations coming up that could guide us in what to follow, what will be, let's say, the laws to follow. That will be more important, I think.
But I think you're setting the scene nicely, because we've talked about technology obviously developing and driving change. We've talked about the need to involve businesses and to integrate between business and IT, and to involve regulatory changes as well. And so I would like to ask you, one of the things that I hear mostly when going to conferences these days under the heading of digital transformation is customer centricity, that the access to data allows for much better customer centricity in the development. Would you care to comment on that and how we're moving with this and how digital helps, Theodoros?
Yes, sure. I think digital is the main component. I do think it's the cornerstone of customer centricity and customer experience we give to our users. It is all about, basically, let me backtrack for a second. I think what we need to focus on and to reply is what's in it for the end customer. And this is actually where customer centricity comes into play. Let's face it, the banks over the last years have not kept up with the game of customer centricity. Unfortunately, and this is something where the fintech scene came to help us in order to start focusing more on our customer. Unfortunately, the banks over the last years have been more introvert by probably ignoring, maybe sometimes, the experience and everything that they offer to the end customer. Things are changing. We have today a lot of means, a lot of tools in order to create a better framework for experience. It's also how well you know your customer. We have data that can help us take data-driven insights, and this is where digital helps a lot, because this is real time, and then we can know better our customer. We can provide tailor-made offers or contextual recommendations that would be meaningful for them. The digital space offers or safeguards faster and secure transactions. The automation and the artificial intelligence, like was mentioned before, take things to a totally new level, because it's more relevant and more meaningful to the end customer. And I do believe that, again, the rise of the fintech community and the collaboration with the banks can help digital to offer a brand new experience. So it's not about, let me speak about banking, right? It's not about how you transact with the bank, how you banking, or you perform your banking activities. It is how well appreciated you feel from a bank, right? In my age, for example, if I get communication for a student loan, does not make really sense, right? So I feel that the bank doesn't really know me, doesn't know who I really am. But something, that comes to a pension, for example, might be of my interest. Why? Because I'm at the life stage where this is something that might, trigger my interest. So long story short, it is important the banks to stay relevant, the banks to be more humble when it comes to the experience. And I use on purpose this word, because sometimes the legacy banks or the traditional banks are designing products or services, offerings, without taking into consideration what the end customer wants. And this is where digital comes into play, because it's changing the whole perception and the whole product life cycle from the moment for the concept stage, what we envisage to offer to the customer, through a discovery phase, through testing. We try to make things relevant for the customer, and to reply to the $1 million question, what's in it for me from a customer's perspective.
So maybe I should go to you, Oscar, and hear how it works with you, and if you're involved with customers as well. How do you integrate? Do you integrate customers directly in any way?
Yeah, definitely. Getting feedbacks from customers and getting complaints and suggestions from the customers definitely be part of our product development cycle. And as you asked, currently there are many data points right now, so that we can get without asking, how can I say, we can also get transaction data from digital channels. We have open banking and PSD2 capability. We can get customer transaction history from other banks. And also there is embedded finance now in the picture. So e-commerce companies, big techs also get data from touch points from these transactions. So in short, I believe that personalization of the services, digital services, can be possible with all this data. You can collect the data, run a machine learning algorithm, and offer personalized content, campaign, etc. However, I want to touch this hyper-personalization of customer experience. Why? Because gradually we saw that with this data, companies, banks would want to offer very hyper-personalized experience. But I want to ask, do we really need such a hyper-personalized experience in digital channels? I believe that personalization is very important, and I really understand the benefit of personalization, but I am a bit skeptical about hyper-personalization. I read a Harvard Business Review article about digital marketing, and in the article title was that hyper-targeting in digital marketing is not very useful as we think. That's why my point is that in order to be regarding customer centricity, we need to focus on also emotions, not too many robotic customer experience. So you can personalize every step of the interaction in the channels, in the journey, but please do not forget emotions, I suggest. So let me give an example about a very basic use case. In my past company, when a customer closes his consumer loan by paying last installment, we sent a very short email to the customer and say that, dear customer, you paid your last installment. Congratulations, and I hope you met your needs with our consumer loan. And if you in the future, if you need any urgent needs, please apply. We are here for your service. So touching like very small points in this and touching the emotional human touch of these experiences, I think very important than making every step hyper-personalized.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like, coming from where I'm sitting, I like the idea of introducing people's emotions as well, because what we really often see when we move around asking questions to customers is actually that emotions are, and they're likely to be highly irrational. So sometimes when you develop a highly strategized development and think this solution should actually fulfill customer needs, you'll find that it doesn't, because in their community this is not done or something else. So I like the idea of introducing emotions. I'd like to ask, yeah, sure.
If you allow me, Annette, I think that we have to appreciate and take into consideration that emotions can be positive and negative as well, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we might create also some negative emotions towards our customers.
Yeah.
When it comes to sentiment, at least.
That's one of the interesting things when we start looking at customer communities, like within open banking, where obviously you see it mostly on the corporate or SME side rather than retail customers. But actually the fact that when perhaps one day communities start looking like gamer communities, there will be no short, there will be only a short time between a feeling with a customer and what happens when they share it. Yeah. Jose, in insurance, changes in customizable solutions must be dominant as well, with the ability to follow customers quite closely and actually coming quite close to the business, to the core of the business of insurance, when you know people's health or how they drive or everything. Would you like to expand a bit on that?
Yes, and I think we live in a digital world, and for example, the customer asks for an insurance company the same that he asked for Amazon services, for example, and he always wants to have all the information updated. He wants to know the exact position of their claims, but I think that the difficult thing here is that in a claim there are a lot of people intervening, and to give that the challenge is to gather that kind of information, because not all the intervening are at the same speed than you for providing that kind of solution. So I think this is one of the problems. We're developing a new customer journeys for several process, a specific process to keep that sense of information, update, but it's not easier to expand to all the interaction with our users. And also about what you comment about gathering information with specific devices for motor. There are some intervenients, some clients that want, and also that prefer to keep their privacy. They're not very interested and give you so much information for making hyper personalized offerings and things like that. The thing you are watching him, or perhaps if I have a device in my car, you know where I am or what I am doing. And if there is not a big benefit for them, I think they are not very agreed to give you such amount of data.
No. No, in that case, we would be coming back somehow to managing infrastructure, whether it could be shared with somebody that's not necessarily the insurance broker, but somebody else. Like, I understand that sometimes if you put in motion a protection of your home, there are insurance companies that will allow you they are satisfied to know that you're picking up the data, but not asking necessarily that you share all of it. But so that's one of the perspectives probably following digitization. So we're not necessarily quite there yet with customer centricity, although we have the means to do a lot more than we have been doing up to now, if I understand correctly. So I'll just remind the audience that you're most welcome to ask any questions along the lines that we're following. We are going, I think, to dive a little bit into something that we have already touched upon, and which is a little bit broader, which is what are the drivers and the challenges that you're facing? I think you've come across them, but it would be great to sort of dot the I's and cross the T's as we move along, and starting by, I don't know, I'll let it be up to you whether you want to start with drivers or challenges. And Paula, perhaps you could kick us off on this one.
Sure. I mean,
sorry.
Sorry.
No, Paula, please.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, just continuing with the discussion of the contact with the clients, I have to say that in the banking sector, the majority of banks are more, let's say, business centric than customer oriented. So I think that is something we should focus more on, let's say, find a balance on this topic at the time of handling with customers. Coming back to your question, definitely, I mean, as I told you, yeah, I mean, in this, as more technologies come in, more regulation too. So I think it is where the challenges arises. For example, budget is one of the main challenge, no? Due to the risk of potential loss in profits, some organizations are reluctant to reassign resources in order to take these different AI programs, and for example, it's difficult for them to raise funds, also to assign to compliance teams, and also to locate this money, let's say, in different experiences that we were talking about. Privacy is another challenge, I would say. Is really difficult for organizations sometimes to deal with the private information, and also comply with the regulation of GDPR. That is also a challenge.
Mm.
Maybe AI can be instrumental to assess the privacy risk and obligations within this data and to achieve compliance. Technology, I would say, could be also considered as a challenge. While it is fantastic, you know, to see the technology come as far as it has, in the wrong hands, it can be a disaster. We have to keep up with the risks that such new tools can have in the hands of criminals, for example. Another risk, I could say, another challenge would be the understanding of the risks involved. For example, compliance teams need to gain an understanding of new technologies and tools available in the market. Sometimes the banks can be a little bit old school and continue with their own programs or their own systems. But I think it would be interesting to move on to develop compliance programs that are able to quickly adapt to new risks, new changes in the landscape, in the environment. And this can only be achieved by using these new tools and software that can be easily adapted to new risks by avoiding excessive manual processes and technology debt.
Right. Jose, you wanted to comment?
About challenges, and I think there is a big lack of skills and technological skills. I think we follow often we follow IT trends without thinking about it. We have the correct skills to develop that or to follow that kind of technologies. Sometimes we not focus on solve business problem because perhaps there are all the technologies that can solve our problems, but perhaps they are not so cool, so we don't use it. And we don't have to forget that we are business. We have to solve business problems. We are not fintech or insurtech to go and run to the last trend or the last technology as they appear, because they also what it makes is we don't have the enough resources with the right skills to treat with them, so we cannot advance.
That is a good point. Skills is an issue. Before I move on to Oscar and Theodoros, what are you thinking about something like standards? Is that
standards? Yes, I think we have the things are evolving so fast. We don't have standards. I think, for example, in insurance, we need a standard that, for example, banking has, like PD2 or things like that, to develop more, as Oscar said, APIs to develop a new standard of APIs that will allow all the players to make things easier to interact with which is one, because nowadays you want to interact with one specific fintech or insurtech, you have to develop your own API to communicate. I think that the market, the insurance and banking, should advance more about this kind of integration and communication. Of course, it had great risks of data you have to evaluate, but I think that we have to evolve more to integrate with another players. We as insurers or banks, we have to focus on our core and allow the IT players more agile to communicate with us through a standard layer of communication.
Great, thank you. Oscar or Theodoros, would you like to comment as well on challenges and drivers? Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think mostly the challenge here is to how the banking sector, or let's say legacy organizations, just to put it in perspective, can really start doing things differently. I mean, in order to have a different outcome, you have to do things differently. You can't keep up, doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. So the main challenge for me is the ability to unlearn how you do or how you used to do certain things in the past, And I think this is a very, speaking of skill set as well, this is also a very good quality once we are hiring people, to have people that they are flexible, they are open to unlearn what they have learned to do in a certain way. Let me give you an example. There is a study from Harvard Business School saying that by 2030, we're going to have 92% of the content on the web is going to be generated by artificial intelligence, right? And this means that some people, some jobs will be at stake because, you know, we're going to have machines that they will be writing the content. And then these people need to unlearn the way that they have used to operate, or to learn a new skill, or to keep up with the new technologies and the new trends. When it comes also to challenges, I think another area is how, as an organization, as a mindset, in your DNA is injected the ability to still continue thriving into uncertainty. And digital, it is a space of uncertainty. Why? Because, like we said earlier today, it's changing so rapidly. And that can create, you know, a gap between a current state and the desired state. So it's also how you can manage to bridge that gap as well. Let's see the example of web. Web 1, it was about reading. Web 2 was about reading and writing. Now about the Web 3, it's about reading, writing, and owning as well. And this, in order, you know, you have to embrace that. You don't have to see it, you know, as something that doesn't really concern you, or like a threat. So these are the main challenges, the way at least I see it. At the end of the day, I do believe that it comes down to mindset, right? It's about, you know, sometimes changing your perspective can bring you, you know, up to date, and can make you able to deliver very, very good results.
Yeah, right.
And staying relevant.
Yeah. Staying relevant, yeah. Oscar?
Yeah, I just want to briefly mention one challenge and one driver. From the challenge perspective, I really find the regulatory standards, regulatory compliance issue a bit overwhelming. Why? Because banks like us, mid-sized banks, need to focus and need to spend their energy most to comply with the regulations. Therefore, small banks, mid-sized banks cannot focus on the product development or digital transformation when as it required, because of these constantly changing regulatory requirements. From the opportunity perspective, I also want to mention embedded finance again. Why? Let's assume as a retail bank, you want to sell 1 million consumer loan to customers. So in order to sell the 1 million consumer loan, you need to at least acquire 1 million customers with a mass marketing. However, with the embedded finance, you can cooperate 10 e-commerce business to acquire new customers through these channels. So embedded finance, I think, really a good game changer for the existing player as well. They need to be ready for this API integration and API type of integration with the business, I believe.
Thank you so much. I think you've shared some great examples of both drivers and challenges, and I like that they're not only challenges that are external in the sense that they are regulatory or standards or lack of IT, but also about skills and the culture in the organizations, which is something that I suppose that everybody is struggling with when change is happening so fast. We've had a question about how European financial regulators are responding towards the shift, and I think that actually Paula has already done a lot to answer that, explaining how the regulation is changing as we go forward. But I think there's a nice challenge in here for all of you to comment on, if you'd like, if we can provide successful examples of digital transformation in the European financial services. Would any of you like to comment on that?
let's agree, how do we define successful? First, right?
I think you can design it as you like, since it's not in here.
Yeah, I think that if you see some banks, at least in the European market, they have managed to make that shift. Let's say BBVA, for example, it is one good case that we can all learn from it. But just to be fair here, I don't think, and going back to Oscar, I don't think it's matter of a small, mid, or large bank. I think that it mostly, the digital transformation has to do a lot with how relevant you want to stay into the market. I think that the problems are common, regardless the size of an organization. What I see, for example, like in big banks, is the exact same issues that I see in smaller banks as well. So I just want to elaborate a bit more on that. But going back to successful digital transformations, yes, I do believe BBVA is a very, very good example that we can all learn from them.
I should think that if we look to the broader examples, that some of the most successful examples are actually the peer-to-peer payment solutions on mobile, because not mentioning everybody who's actually doing it, but that's sort of one of the sort of very small things that are quite successful, but not as major as BBVA, but a good example. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to comment? So we have had another question on whether investing in IA and technology is more important than investing in people in the organization. To sort of anybody.
Yeah, let me briefly share my opinion. Yeah, actually, investing the people is really important when we compare to investing the AI, because as you know, AI applications, AI algorithms and applications will be on our life and our business in the future, definitely. But in order to utilize AI, you need to invest your employee to have to get benefit from the AI. So we all, in the recent months, we have discussing prompt engineering, because in order to get benefit from the conversational AI or ChatGPT like language models, you need to use prompts very efficiently. That's why I believe that before investing AI or technology, I think we need to speed up our and close the skill gap in the business teams in the IT by investing our people.
Yes, I agree. I think before investing in technology, first you have to invest in the people, because the technology without the knowledge is useless. So you cannot forget one, you cannot split them. If you invest a lot in IT and you don't have the right knowledge, you have very big tools, but you are not using them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, actually, in the question, both are not exclusive. They are actually complementary. So we need both of them. So we need to focus on employees and also technology, which is the future. I wouldn't think I could differentiate them. I could think about them only together.
Yeah, totally agree. But you also cannot expect that the people are going to train them by themselves without any investment or thing like that. You need time and you need money to know how to use the tools. Also, I agree. You have to invest in both of them.
Yeah, the one doesn't exclude the other one, right? It's not like investing in people or investing in technology. You can always keep a balance.
Exactly.
So I think that we are going towards the end. Even if we have been allowed a generous hour, time flies. And I think I'd like to give you a minute or so to comment on the main takeaways for the audience participants, or what you learned yourself today, and to comment perhaps also on whether you think that this is, when do we stop talking about this? I keep thinking about the words of Heraclitus, I think, who was it, who said that the only thing constant is change. And that seems to cover quite well for where we are. But I think it would be great for you to just sum up where your thoughts are for the audience and for the people as we come to the end of this webinar. I don't know, Paula, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think we will need to build an inclusive, supporting, and open environment across all the businesses in relation to technology, which is a fundamental factor which is coming in the future. So I think, again, it is great and important to maintain a balance between the use of technology, but also between our own employees in our company. That is going to be the objective, right? To have the whole business on a journey, let's say, to a better culture.
That's a good point. Jose, perhaps.
Yeah, we've been talking, we've been hearing about digital transformation for many years, for many years, and we are going to hear about it for many more. I think we should begin to talk more about people transformation to change that culture that Paula said before, and to integrate in the use of technology if we're going to be successful. We have to explain the people, our people, how the technology has come here to help them, not to quit their jobs. Now, because they are very resistant, because the only thing they hear on the news is all that kind of jobs are going to disappear. But no, nothing happened when the car was invented or things like that, or the computer. No, different works appear. And as Theodoro said, you have to adapt and to learn new things. We have to explain that kind of things to our people if you want to be successful, and to focus more on the digital, the people transformation, for being able to follow that digital transformation.
Yes. Oscar?
Yeah, I really like your analogy, Annette, regarding digital camera and digital transformation. So in short, I believe that digital camera in the past were on some, very few people, but now today everyone has a digital cameras in their pocket. So I believe that digital transformation also in the future will be a task for every people, every staff in the bank, not only for digital transformation teams and IT now. Therefore, digital transformation will continue, but maybe the name of this transformation be part of everybody, every team in the unit in the bank organization. Thank you.
Good point. Theodoros?
Sure. I do think that at the end of the day, we really need to see the opportunity here, right? There are many discussions, about threats, etc. But there is a bright future, at least in my views, that creates new jobs and new opportunities as well. It is important not to forget the accessibility part, because I think we haven't really touched this subject today, and how we can make digital inclusive for everyone, right? Everyone to be part of it. As a key takeaway for me is basically how you can, as a key takeaway and challenge, let me put it like this, it's like not to forget for whom you are transforming, right? Are you transforming for you as an organization in order to stay relevant, or are you transforming for your customer, for your end customer, in order your customer to enjoy the services and the products you are designing for them? At the end of the day, I think historically, if you see, things are evolving, right? And I think very soon we will not be speaking about digital transformation, but about digital adaptability. I think that it's a commodity nowadays, so there is no other option for organizations to survive in this landscape. So yeah, historically, if you see, there have always been shifts and changes when technology came into the game. And in my view, there are three categories: people that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that wonder what has happened. And I think that sometimes it's better to stay, with the first, in order to make things happen by embracing all this change and by trying to keep up and staying relevant.
That's just perfect, because I think we're right on time. And the only thing that remains for me is here to say thank you to all of you for sharing your knowledge and for making this an enjoyable hour. And thank you to the audience for attending, and to leave the last word, I think, to Kinfus.